Straight to Fox News Alert, President Trump calling in additional National Guard members and 700 Marines to respond to the violence and anti-ICE riots in Los Angeles.
So let's get to Jonathan Hunt, who's live on the ground in L.A. What's it looking like this morning, Jonathan?
Well, Ainsley, frankly, it is a lot less tense on the streets of downtown L.A. this morning than it was just 24 hours ago. We were standing here in front of the Metropolitan Detention Center yesterday morning talking to you guys. This entire street was blocked off. National Guard troops were stationed right across it. Now, as you see there, there's just a handful of those National Guard troops out the front of the Metropolitan Detention Center. So it is a different situation this morning. You definitely feel a lessening of the tension. Having said that, that is not to say that there were not intense clashes once again last night throughout downtown LA. Thousands of protesters were once again roaming the streets, trying to damage federal buildings. They were stopped from doing so by the National Guard, who ranged themselves in front of a cluster of federal buildings here. And then the LAPD, along with the LA Sheriff's Department, California Highway Patrol, ran a pretty efficient operation, separating those groups from each other, getting them into smaller and smaller groups, effectuating arrests and using tear gas, using flashbang grenades, and in some cases rubber bullets to maintain control. Meantime, U.S. Marines are on the way here. They left their base at 29 Palms yesterday. That's in the Palm Springs area east of Los Angeles. We understood that they staged overnight at Naval Station Seal Beach, but they should be on the streets of L.A. later today. That prompted this ex-post from Governor Gavin Newsom, who said, quote, "The Secretary of Defense is illegally deploying them onto American streets so Trump can have a talking point at his parade this weekend. It's a blatant abuse of power. We will sue to stop this." But given what we saw on Sunday, the very intense clashes, and the slightly less so on Monday, there is an argument that President Trump can make that the deployment of federal resources is working. In the meantime, the search for those engaged in violent acts on the streets of LA goes on. This man has been a particular target. He was seen on video throwing rocks at law enforcement officers. Well, the Attorney General Pam Bondi announced on Hannity last night that they know who he is. Listen here to the Attorney General.
That guy has just been identified, and they are doing a search warrant on his house as we speak. So you can run, you can't hide. We are coming after you federally. If you assault a police officer, if you rob a store, if you loot, if you spit on a police officer, we're coming after you.
That man's name is Elpidio Reyna. Authorities say they will find him and anyone else who engages in violence. Back to you guys.
All right, Jonathan. You know, it's calm right now. Thank you, Jonathan Hunt, on the scene. It's calm right now. But it's literally, it should be calm right now. It's at 5 in the morning. But I really worried that they're organizing tonight to take on the 700 Marines, the 2,000 National Guard.
4,000 now.
Right, who decides to show up for the LAPD, because what they're doing now is defiling federal property, but they're also shutting down traffic and commerce in this area. At one point, the local officials have to take a stand. They just sit there in their bunker, put on a windbreaker and do a press conference, and they let President Trump basically is forced to take control of this unrest.
Lawrence, this guy that's on the side of the road pelting cop cars with cement, with cinder blocks, they should make him pay for it.
That's exactly
Anyone
right.
who does this vandalism and looting.
He's got no money.
Because he's throwing the money, he's throwing the blocks.
Take it out of his paycheck.
Windshield.
He should have to pay for those cars to get fixed, not the taxpayers.
All these people claim, a lot of them, that they came to this country for a better life. Meanwhile, they're assaulting our cops, putting their old country's flag up, and causing total mayhem in a once great city. But the leaders aren't doing anything. This is what they're saying.
These are not the people that we were told were going to be detained. And it makes me feel like our city is actually a test case for what happens when the federal government moves in and takes the authority away from the state or away from local government. I don't think that our city should be used for an experiment to see what happens in the nation's second largest city. Well, maybe we can do this to other cities.
Excuse me, that's not true, what she's saying. The federal officials were, because you guys didn't want to help them, they asked for the assistance of the local cops there. The politicians said no. They said, we just want to get the criminal aliens who we have final deportation orders for some, and some of them have criminal offenses. We want to go get them. When they came to the city to do their job, your protesters decided that they were going to obstruct. Now they're trying to get into the prison as well. So don't give me this that they're trying to take over L.A. You guys can have L.A. But as it relates to the criminals in there that don't belong in this country, oh, yes, they are going to enforce federal law.
I just don't understand why they don't want help. Why wouldn't they want the National Guard there? Why wouldn't they want 700 U.S. Marines? Those police officers, last night when I was watching our coverage of it, I was like, this crowd is huge. Yeah. There aren't as many police officers as there are individuals that are rioting, and I was worried for their safety. Why wouldn't they want the help?
Look at this.
Right. You know why? Because they say that by putting the National Guard in there, they're making things worse. They also say they also have 35 minutes before the LAPD responded to ICE's request for reinforcements. That's why President Trump is not taking any more risks. And that's why he went to school in Seattle and Portland and Minneapolis and Kenosha. He saw that maybe he could have been acting a little quicker and was talked out of it in his first term. Then he watched these cities burn, and Joe Biden basically say no problem about that. They basically had what's coming to them, and that was not okay. So when Trump takes over, he's going to make sure that this will not happen, and he's going to make sure that the city will not be out of control. But I think symbolically, and by the way, here's the sheriff of Los Angeles, who when he was in charge, he was actually against this kind of disorder and this looting. Listen to Sheriff Villanueva, who used to have this job in L.A. County.
The worst that we saw on Sunday was absolutely downplayed by the local media, by the politicians. They're all saying, oh, it's largely peaceful. No, it was largely violent. And the concentration of violent activists embedded within people that were just looked like they were trying to peacefully protest was a joke. Because that was you look at the destruction of the CHP cruisers, the shutdown of the 101 freeway. And if you look at the tagging and the broken windows throughout the downtown corridor, it's alarming. Local law enforcement, particularly the sheriff who was responsible for coordinating mutual aid among all these agencies, they were paralyzed in fear about coming to the aid of ICE agents who were under attack. And that right there is the genesis of this entire mess.
Not peaceful at all. They were throwing frozen water bottles at police last night, Molotov cocktails, baseball bats were hidden in the bushes in case they needed them. They were lobbing fireworks at the police and sticks at the police.
Yeah, Seth Moulton says this is what the president wants. It's not what the president wants. He has no interest in doing this.
We don't want this. The country doesn't want this. I don't want my country to become little Gaza. I don't want my country to become little Mexico. It's great for vacationing, but I don't want the criminals roaming the street, looting Apple. How's looting an Apple store about immigration?
The only reason the president had to step in is because the local leaders won't do their job.
Still won't.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.